I don't know if I have an answer for that. A lot of laps, also a lot of different conditions. I think a lot of people get really focused on or a track they like, hard pack or this or that, but they isolate themselves on a track that they ride a lot and get really good there, but then they go ride a sand track and they can't ride it. So I was always brought up to ride everything. My dad made me ride, didn't matter what it was, sand, hard pack, terrible tracks. So I think that makes a very developed rider in the end.
Try to look at yourself for what keeps you from going faster, you know. Try to search what you can do as a rider, and not so much at the bike, because at that time you didn't get much options with the bike. They gave you the bike at the beginning of the season, and pretty much it stayed. You know, unless something was breaking, there would be very little as far as updated, and there will not be all the suspension work and that they do on a weekly basis these days.
I mean, honestly, all we do is hammer. I mean, we go as fast as we can every day at the Baker's factory. So that's what works for some people not. But every day's a race day back home.
Skill that I trained for, obviously, not much rear brake and not much clutch. I think that would help the average rider just flow around the track better. Without just dragging it or just stomping on the rear brake. Get off of it before you enter the corner and just roll through. That's helped me in the past, so for the average rider, I think that would help a lot.
Well, things that, I mean, now I'm more of the fix what I didn't do right, you know what I mean? The things that we learn in the career maybe too late and stuff. More so that we overlook more than anything in this sport is we get so caught up in the stopwatch of lap after lap after lap, when you can really improve on stuff by even pulling back a little bit and more technique, I would say oriented riding, that I think is coming more full circle in this sport. It's kind of going back around more to that rather than just hammer. And I would say that like section work and stuff like that, just honestly basic fundamentals that I feel like you go pro and you forget that the basics is what kind of got you there, and we all overlook it.
I think a good drill, I have a couple good drills. One is just corner drills, like figure eights, and any sort of corner drill is always good to practice your technique. Also another drill is no rear brake drill. That's a good one too. But I think, yeah, those ones are ones that help a lot.
While training, drill that I do, I work on standing up a lot throughout corners and through bumps, keep my feet on the peg, just use my legs as more leverage, and helps carry momentum and just be more precise on the bike.
Probably balls of the feet, or like I call it fast feet. I learned that from Budman. When you come out of a corner and you have your leg up, just be really fast about getting your foot back on the peg and putting it in the right position. I think a lot of the time I still struggle with, I'm pretty tall, so if I don't focus on getting my leg back on that foot peg, it ends up dragging, and then it pulls you off the back of the bike. You're hanging on tight. So I still work on that. So I think a lot of kids could work on that. Budman was really good about trying to get me to work on that as a little kid, and it was always really easy for me because I was really short. So I could pretty much do whatever I want with my legs, and it would just end up back on the peg. But now that I'm all grown up and I'm way taller, just gotta keep focusing on that, and I think that's a good trait for all those little kids to burn in their heads.
I think one of the things that I work on that would help a lot of riders is trying to let off the brakes and roll through the corner. I think that that's been the biggest thing that's helped me in the last couple of years, and it's just like you always feel like you got to grab that front brake and stuff, and if you let that go in the corner, it kind of pulls you around the corner, and you can carry a lot more corner speed.
I would say there's a lot, so it's hard to pick one. I would say one of the best things is get off your rear brake early, especially right-hand turns. Right-hand turns are tough because you want to get your foot out, obviously, but you can't be on the rear brake and have your leg out. So just maybe slow down a little bit, come into the turn a little slower, use that front brake a little more, get off that rear brake, and just roll through the turn a little bit better. In a nutshell, get off the rear brake sooner, and don't ride that brake through the turn. Just get off the rear brake right at the entry and roll through the turn a lot better.
Standing up more. especially coming into the turns. That's something I like to do, and I think it could help the average rider, especially because when it's bumpy coming into the turns, a lot of the guys who just sit down and like take all the G-force on their back, so standing up would be my skill, I guess.
For me, a drill that I've really been working on a lot lately is keeping my feet on the pegs and not clipping the jumps. So like warm up, first session of the day, just try to ride with my feet on the pegs. Don't stick my leg out, don't clip any jumps, just be smooth, flowing, and kind of do it enough to where it becomes habit and then I don't have to think about it.
I've struggled with it my whole career. Really, is just elbows and feet. The balls of my feet. I've used to be bad about that, and then elbows up. That's the biggest tip you can have, because if you got good form, you can go fast. So that's what I work on every day still.
Starting my day off with a timed warm up, like on the track. So I always warm up before I ride. Like I'll do a row normally for 10 minutes just to get the blood flowing. But getting up to speed in your warm up so that your body opens up, and honestly that helps with a lot of people struggle with arm pump. Like they never really get a good warm up in like for their day, so that they're still warming up every time they're still out there. So for me, it's trying to get up to speed in my first session of the day so that I can build off that.
So obviously starts, I feel like, is the basic answer, but I've been out also a lot doing motos with my feet on foot pegs, like completely all times, and I feel like that helps me out a lot with, like, I don't really know what it helps me out with, but I feel like it's helped me with my riding.
Honestly, doing no clutch stuff, I feel like a few laps of no clutch at a time. At first it's tough, but as soon as you kind of feel it out and start figuring it out, like within a lap, I feel like I can put down laps almost as fast as using a clutch with no clutch, and it smooths you out. You never brake too much or you stall it, and it makes you roll your corners really nice. So I really like no clutch stuff.
Cornering drills, to be honest, I mean, I have a pretty good assumption that most riders will say that, doing the little figure eights and just the turn track drills to help you just remember to stay off the clutch, off the brake, smooth, nice, easy throttle. I'd say that's probably number one.
I do whoops a lot because I struggle big time in a whoops. So, everyone bags on me about that. But I've definitely picked up my speed in the whoops lately. So I definitely practice on my whoops a lot that other people probably should too.
Circle drill. Dude, go in a field, ride in a circle. Best thing you can do on a motorcycle.
Figure eight track, small figure eight track. I don't know if people do that, but I do it.
Quarter speed.
12-ounce curls. No, I never did that, actually. When I was racing, we went and jumped and had fun. Like, it was a whole different era. Like, we would do our motos. I lived in Oklahoma for a long time. I lived in Ohio with Fred Andrews. In Oklahoma, I was with Guy Cooper. And when I was with Coop, we actually did something called the Damon game. And it was pretty fun. He had this track called the 500, and it was like Disneyland of a motocross track. It was jump after jump, step ups, like the most insane, fun place you could ride. Like, there wasn't even a braking bump on it probably, because there were so many jumps, and it was an outdoor track. And the year he won the championship, we would do this thing called the Damon game, and basically it was he would ride at about 80%, his 80%, I was like pretty pinned, and we'd basically cut each other off and run into each other. Not that Damon was dirty or anything, but he just called it the Damon game. That was kind of Guy Cooper's name for it. And so that was just sort of something that got you used to riding right next to each other and kind of, going off jumps side by side. Real quick, funny story. Actually, he used to get a crowd of people from Stillwater would come out there and watch. And we were doing the Damon game and just kind of not slamming each other, but running into each other. And he had this big, it was like 85-foot triple step up to flat. It's in like some old motocross videos if you ever watch it. And we came in there and I landed on the inside of him and took his front wheel out as we landed, and he just cartwheeled. And I'm like, oh my God. I mean, he's, there's 2 races left in the championship. He's, right there. And I remember and the crowd, everybody who was there watching us just like got their backs up. I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to get my ass kicked right now, even though we're just playing around. And of course, guy jumps up laughing. Oh my God, that was so fun. That's a true story. That it was hilarious. I was just like, oh my God, all these, dudes from Stillwater, Oklahoma are about to kill some California kid who just took out the dude, Anyways, that was one thing we used to do. And then we just would play. We would go find cliff climbs and hips and just different stuff to jump, and just so you're a better bike handler, basically. I know nowadays they go out and they practice braking and they practice, blitz and whoops, of course, and all that stuff. Yeah, no, never did any of that. Maybe that's, maybe I should have.
I think one of the biggest things is having a good regimen at home, like training, make sure your bike is always prepared for what you're going to do, as far as making sure, air filter, stuff like that could hurt you on the track when you're practicing and prevent injuries. You're out on a track jumping bikes in the air, doing a lot of stuff, and I think it's an analogy I always would have: would you get in an airplane that's maintained by an improperly maintained person? So your bike's the same way.